every age of human history, there are inventions that shine like beacons, proofs of genius, creativity, and progress. But there are also shadows, shadows that stretch across centuries, whispering of minds long vanished, of technologies that seem too precise, too advanced, too impossible for the civilizations that created them. These are the enigmas that refuse to fit neatly into the timeline of human development, technologies scattered through the ancient world, so sophisticated that even today, with all our accumulated scientific knowledge, we still cannot say with certainty how they were created. Tonight, we journey deep into the past, beyond written memory, beyond the ruins and relics we think we understand, into a realm where the mysteries of human ingenuity grow darker, stranger, and infinitely more compelling. This is the story of 10 ancient technologies we still can't explain, technologies that defy conventional history, technologies that force us to ask uncomfortable questions about the people who came before us, and the limits of what we believe they were capable of. Our story begins not in a grand city or an empire of gold, but in silence. Imagine standing before an ancient artifact, its surface worn, its details faded yet still radiating a complexity that feels unsettlingly modern. The sense that someone, thousands of years ago, knew something we don't, something we may never fully rediscover. The ancient world, after all, is not merely a place of broken stones and myths. It is a vast archive, one written in fragments. A gear found in a shipwreck, a stone block perfectly carved against all apparent possibility. A map charting lands never explored. A battery that predates electricity by millennia. Each fragment is a message, an echo left for us across time. And so we begin. In the heart of the Mediterranean, beneath the restless waves, lies a discovery that rewrote our understanding of ancient engineering. A device so intricate that modern watchmakers have marveled at its precision. A machine with gears, axles, and a mathematical purpose so sophisticated that for decades, scholars refused to believe it could be ancient at all. Found in the wreckage of a 2,000-year-old ship off the coast of Antikythera, this device has come to symbolize the unnerving intelligence of forgotten worlds. But as we explore this artifact, we begin to understand something important. The ancient people who built it weren't merely craftsmen, they were scientists. Scientists who worked with a depth of astronomical knowledge that challenges the image we often paint of early civilizations. The question is not whether they created such a device, but how many others were lost before it. And still, even this marvel is only a single thread in the tapestry of unexplained knowledge. As we journey eastward, the deserts of Iraq hide their own peculiar secret. A small clay jar, humble and unassuming, yet capable of producing electrical current when filled with acidic liquid. Long before electricity lit our cities, someone used simple materials, copper, iron, vinegar, to create what resembles a galvanic cell. The ancient world, it seems, may have known the spark of electricity long before we rediscovered it. These technologies invite us to look deeper, to reconsider every assumption we have about the linear march of human progress. They challenge the belief that our ancestors were perpetually struggling just to survive. Instead, they reveal a past that is dynamic, curious, inventive. And so our journey continues, from deserts to mountains, from temples to tombs. High in the Andean world, Peru's ancient builders carved stone so precisely that even a modern razor blade cannot slide between the joints. Perfectly interlocking geometries, no mortar, no binding materials, no room for error. Stone blocks weighing dozens of tons, lifted into place with techniques no one has ever been able to convincingly reproduce. Modern engineers still debate the methods. Ancient legends suggest the stones were softened or shaped with knowledge long lost. But whatever the truth, these walls defy conventional explanation. Their flawless alignment carries a quiet, unsettling message. We were more advanced than you think. Across the world, in Egypt, other mysteries await. Blocks of granite, quarried miles away, transported with a precision that seems to exceed the limits of manpower alone. drill marks carved into stone at rates that suggest speeds and pressures unmatched by the simple tools we believe the ancients possessed. The more we study the ancient world, the more the anomalies grow. Why do so many ancient structures seem to embody principles of mathematics and astronomy with uncanny accuracy? Why do civilizations separated by oceans appear to share architectural techniques, astronomical alignments, and technological ideas? Is it coincidence, convergent evolution, or is there something deeper we still fail to understand? Our journey will take us through 10 of these ancient mysteries, 10 technologies that stand defiantly outside conventional explanation, technologies that hint at knowledge lost, techniques forgotten, or perhaps civilizations far more capable than we have ever imagined. As we move through each mystery, remember this: the ancient world was not simple. It was not primitive. It was human, brilliant, creative, flawed, and endlessly curious, just like us. And sometimes, brilliance leaves behind puzzles that we, even with satellite imaging, particle accelerators, and supercomputers, still struggle to solve. Now, our exploration deepens. Picture an ancient workshop, not a fantasy, but a real place. Stone floors worn by centuries, tools arranged with purpose, artisans bending over their work. They were not working with magic, they were working with knowledge. Knowledge passed from teacher to student, generation after generation, until one day, something broke that chain. Empires fell. Wars consumed libraries. Natural disasters buried cities. And with each catastrophe, a thread of ancient brilliance was severed forever. What remains today are the artifacts, the silent survivors of history's violence. These objects cannot speak, but they provoke questions, deep, uncomfortable questions that linger in the mind of anyone who studies them. How did ancient cultures achieve surgical techniques so advanced that they rival modern procedures? Why do some ancient artifacts contain alloys or machining marks that we struggle to replicate today? Why do some ruins suggest an understanding of seismology, acoustics, or even energy manipulation? Each question pulls us further into the unknown. In the frozen expanses of Siberia, petroglyphs depict technological shapes that look like machines. In India, ancient Sanskrit texts describe flying crafts with detailed engineering concepts. In Greece, myth and mechanism blur into something indistinguishable. In Mesoamerica, structures align perfectly with cycles of the sun, moon, and planets timed with astonishing precision. The deeper we look into the past, the more the past looks back at us and challenges us to reconsider everything we think we know. This documentary is not about fantastical claims. It is not about aliens, or magic, or impossible myths. It is about technology, real, tangible, measurable technology that should not exist in its time. Technology that forces historians, engineers, and scientists to ask the same haunting question: how? How did they know this? How did they build this? How did they achieve accuracy, craftsmanship, and scientific insight that seems centuries, sometimes millennia ahead of their era? Tonight, we examine those 10 mysteries. And as we do, we must open our minds to the possibility that history is not a straight line. Human progress is not a ladder, but a mosaic, beautiful, complex, and filled with missing pieces. The ancient world is calling, and its unanswered questions await us. As the echoes of forgotten ingenuity guide our steps, our journey takes us deeper into antiquity, to places where technology and myth intertwine so tightly that separating the two becomes almost impossible. Every discovery we encounter becomes another doorway into a world that refuses to be simple. A world where innovation flourished in silence, without the documentation or fanfare we expect from scientific progress today. Now imagine standing before a stone surface so polished, so flawlessly finished, that it reflects light like a mirror. Its edges are smooth, the curvature mathematically perfect, as though shaped by machines with accuracy measured in microns. Yet the artifact lies thousands of years deep in the archaeological record. Long before lathes, before high-speed rotary tools, before motorized grinders, these objects exist small, elegant, perplexing, and they remind us that the ancient world often blurs the line between artistry and engineering. And in some cases, the precision is simply beyond what hand tools alone could accomplish. The questions surrounding these artifacts are not trivial. They demand explanations that archaeology has yet to fully provide. How could early civilizations produce surfaces that mimic the finish of modern optical equipment? How did they understand the geometric subtleties required for such work? The closer we examine them, the more intricate the mystery becomes. But mysteries are not limited to objects alone. Some are woven into the very landscapes of ancient cultures. Deep in the jungles of Cambodia, beneath layers of vegetation and soil, lie remnants of vast engineered systems, reservoirs, channels, and urban grids so complex that even with modern technology, we struggle to map them fully. Long before industrial machines existed, ancient engineers carved rivers, reshaped lakes, and constructed hydraulic networks capable of sustaining populations on a massive scale. These weren't just cities, they were ecological machines, sophisticated in ways we still don't completely understand. As we widen our lens, patterns begin to emerge across continents. Civilizations separated by oceans, yet sharing something surprising. An understanding of scale. Not just physical scale, but conceptual scale. They built not simply structures, but systems, technologies designed to endure, to resist time, to shape environments for centuries. One of the great enigmas of ancient engineering lies in their mastery of sound. In scattered corners of the world, temples and stone chambers produce acoustic effects so precise, so deliberate, that they defy coincidence. Whisper in one corner of a room, and another person, standing far away, hears it clearly as though beside you. Strike a stone, and the vibration resonates at frequencies that seem engineered for ritual, healing, or communication. Scientists today study these acoustic marvels with modern tools, yet we still lack a full understanding of how ancient builders achieved them. Were these effects intentional, or fortunate accidents? The consistency of their design suggests intention, a purposeful shaping of space itself. As we continue, our path leads us to another puzzle, one embedded not in stone or metal, but in knowledge. Knowledge preserved in manuscripts, etched on clay tablets, whispered across generations. Maps appear in places they shouldn't. Ancient diagrams depict coastlines and continents far beyond the known world of their time. Some charts show Antarctica as it might have been before it was buried under ice. Others reveal mathematical projections not fully understood until the era of global navigation. How did cartographers of the ancient world chart lands thousands of miles away with a precision that rivals modern satellite imaging? Did knowledge travel farther and faster than we realize? Or did earlier, forgotten civilizations embark on journeys that were never recorded? The evidence is tantalizing, yet it remains on the fringes of historical certainty, a story half told. Even as these mysteries stretch our understanding of the past, they also tell us something profound. Human curiosity is ancient. The drive to observe, measure, experiment. These are not modern inventions. They are woven into our species, deep and instinctive. Every ancient technology we cannot explain is a reminder of how long we have sought to understand our world and how much has been lost along the way. Our exploration now leads us to metalworking traditions that push the limits of ancient capability. People thousands of years ago created alloys of unusual purity, objects metallurgically advanced beyond what historians expect for their era. Some artifacts contain trace elements requiring controlled smelting temperatures that should have been impossible at the time. Others display microstructures that remain difficult to replicate even with contemporary equipment. These aren't isolated anomalies. They appear in regions separated by vast distances, cultures that never met, civilizations that rose and fell without ever knowing one another's names. Yet, somehow, they shared a mysterious mastery of materials, one that modern scientists study, with equal parts fascination and disbelief. How did ancient metallurgists achieve such precision? What techniques did they use? What secrets were passed from smith to apprentice, generation after generation, only to vanish when empires collapsed. The silence of these lost traditions is haunting. And then there are the monuments. Structures so massive, so precisely aligned with celestial bodies, that they function as observatories, calendars, and cosmic instruments. These monuments do not merely sit on the earth, they interact with the sky. They measure solstices, equinoxes, lunar cycles, planetary movements. Their builders possessed an understanding of astronomy so refined that even the slightest adjustment in alignment would have ruined their purpose. Yet these monuments stand firm, unyielding, accurate to fractions of a degree. To build one such structure would be remarkable. That ancient civilizations built many scattered across continents, cultures, and millennia suggests something deeper. A shared fascination with the heavens. A shared desire to understand the unseen mechanisms governing the universe. And perhaps, a shared technological knowledge that we have yet to fully comprehend. As we walk among these ancient wonders, one truth becomes undeniable. History is incomplete. Not wrong, simply incomplete. The more we uncover, the more gaps appear. Every discovery raises new questions, each more challenging than the last. Where did this knowledge come from? Why do these technologies appear suddenly, at times without clear developmental origins? What happened to the traditions behind them? Why did so much brilliance disappear, leaving us to piece together fragments of a forgotten world? Our journey through the 10 unexplained technologies continues to unravel these questions. The answers may never come fully into focus, but the search itself reveals something extraordinary. Across thousands of years, civilizations returned again and again to the same themes: precision, measurement, power, control of natural forces. They reached beyond the limits of their tools, their time, and their world. And often, they succeeded. The deeper we look, the more these ancient innovations remind us of a profound truth. The human mind has always been capable of greatness. Sometimes, greatness beyond what we expect. Sometimes greatness beyond what we can comfortably explain. And so we continue. The deeper we venture into the ancient world, the more we realize that technology, true technology, is not simply measured in gears, metals, or mathematics. Sometimes it lies in the mastery of natural forces, forces that our modern world often takes for granted, forces that ancient engineers manipulated with an elegance we still struggle to replicate. Consider the ancient world's mastery of water. Long before the age of pumps, turbines, and industrial pipelines, civilizations carved entire hydraulic networks with astonishing foresight. They channeled water across mountains, through deserts, and into cities that depended on its steady flow for survival. Some aqueducts defy logic, stretching for dozens of miles with gradients so precise that even a small miscalculation would render them useless. Yet they worked quietly, reliably, for centuries. But the real mystery lies not in their construction alone, but in the innovation behind them. Some hydraulic systems appear to use principles resembling pressure management, siphoning, and even water-based power generation. In a few rare cases, the architecture suggests the presence of mechanisms similar to hydraulic lifts or pressure-regulated valves technologies we traditionally attribute to far more modern eras. Still, the ancient world offers no explanations. It is a pattern we see again and again. The technology is there, but the documentation is missing. Lost to fires, wars, natural disasters, or the slow erosion of time. Yet the artifacts remain, and they whisper of something more. As our exploration pushes forward, we find ourselves confronting another enigma: technology built for movement. Ancient construction often involved the transportation of monolithic stones, some weighing hundreds of tons, stones that modern cranes struggle to lift even with advanced machinery. And yet, ancient cultures moved these stones across rivers, valleys, and mountains, sometimes over distances of 50, 100, or even 500 miles. How? This is the question that sits at the heart of one of history's greatest puzzles. We know ropes existed. We know wooden sledges were used. We know teams of workers labored for years. But none of these explanations fully account for the sheer scale and consistency of ancient megalithic construction. Some stones were lifted into place with such precision that even modern tools cannot replicate the technique without leaving irregularities or gaps. The fit is perfect, mathematically perfect across multiple surfaces, angles, and interlocking seams. Some theories suggest the ancients possessed lost knowledge of friction-reducing materials. Others propose rolling systems that used long-forgotten mechanics. Still others point to ingenious soil manipulation techniques. But the truth remains elusive. The stones moved. They were lifted. They were aligned often with astronomical accuracy. And the technology behind these feats remains, at best, partially understood. As we descend further into the depths of history's unanswered questions, our attention shifts to a different kind of mystery. A mystery of measurement. In various cultures, we find evidence of mathematical knowledge that predates its assumed invention by centuries, sometimes millennia. Ratios found in architecture show an understanding of geometry, calculus-like concepts, and even principles resembling trigonometry. Ancient astronomers charted the motion of planets with accuracy rivaling modern computational models. Some structures encode mathematical constants, pi, phi, and others within their dimensions, not by accident but by design. Yet these civilizations left behind no clear trail of how this knowledge developed. Mathematical brilliance appears fully formed, as though the knowledge emerged suddenly, reached its peak, and disappeared just as quickly. This pattern hints at something unsettling. The possibility that some ancient technologies were not merely inventions of their time. It's a possibility that works the possibility one may two, but inheritances from earlier cultures. Cultures whose own achievements have been lost entirely. The thread of this idea becomes even stronger as we approach another mystery. The ancient world's proficiency in medicine. Long before modern surgical tools, anesthetics, or sterilization, ancient physicians in some regions performed operations with precision that borders on the unbelievable. Trepanation, the surgical removal of part of the skull, occurred across continents. Many patients survived the procedure, their skulls showing signs of healing. How did ancient surgeons achieve this without advanced sanitation or modern tools? What techniques did they use to minimize infection, blood loss, and trauma? Other medical practices reflect an equally puzzling mastery. Ancient prosthetics, crafted with functional joints. Surgical tools made of alloys with antibacterial properties. Herbal compounds whose chemical effects are still studied by pharmacologists today. Even early forms of plastic surgery existed in eras when such knowledge should have been impossible. This is the recurring theme of ancient technology, brilliance without a blueprint. As we journey further, we begin to see that the real mystery is not the objects themselves, but the civilizations behind them. Civilizations that rose so high, achieved so much, and yet left behind so little explanation for their abilities. We see cultures capable of engineering marvels, but viewing the world through spiritual or mythological frameworks that make their scientific insights even more surprising. For these people, knowledge was not separated into compartments like it often is today. Science, art, mathematics, spirituality, they were all part of a unified world. And perhaps, in that interconnected view of existence, they discovered truths we have forgotten. Now, our path leads us to the shadows of ancient workshops once more. The workshops where artisans shaped objects whose craftsmanship we still cannot fully duplicate. Vessels carved from single pieces of stone so thin the light passes through them. Spheres made with precision so exact that modern machining struggles to match them. Cylindrical cores drilled out of granite with spiral patterns suggesting drill speeds and pressures inconsistent with the tools we believe the ancients had. Each of these artifacts raises the same quiet question. What were they capable of that we are not? The question is not a dismissal of modern achievement. On the contrary, it is a recognition that human ingenuity has always been vast. It has surged, collapsed, and resurfaced in cycles throughout history. Our mistake is assuming progress always moves forward. The ancient world tells a different story. A story of knowledge rising to astonishing heights, then disappearing. We stand in the present, looking back across thousands of years at the fragments left behind. And the deeper we look into those fragments, the more we feel the weight of the unknown. Not just what ancient people knew, but what they forgot, what was erased, what was buried, what was taken by time. And as we uncover each forgotten technology, one truth becomes clear. History is not merely what remains. It is also everything that once existed and vanished. And with every artifact we examine, with every structure we explore, we come closer to understanding just how much brilliance the ancient world carried, and how much of that brilliance still lies beyond our grasp. Every step deeper into the ancient world reveals another layer of mystery, another fragment of brilliance left behind by minds that reached beyond the horizon of their time. As we sift through the traces of these lost technologies, a theme begins to emerge: complexity without explanation, innovation without lineage, and mastery that appears suddenly, as though inherited from an earlier age of knowledge now forgotten. Nowhere is this more evident than in the ancient world's relationship with energy. Not just physical energy, but environmental energy, sound, heat, magnetism, cosmic alignment. The ancients seem to understand these forces in ways subtly woven into their architecture, tools, and rituals. Some ancient sites display magnetic anomalies so precise that compass needles shift dramatically only within certain chambers. Stones placed in exact positions generate unusual electrical responses. The acoustics of certain temples amplify frequencies that correlate with human physiological rhythms. These aren't random coincidences. They are patterns, deliberate, repeatable, measurable. They reveal builders who understood how materials interacted with natural forces at a level we rarely attribute to ancient civilizations. The more we observe these patterns, the more our assumptions begin to falter. Could some ancient builders have discovered principles of resonance, magnetism, or piezoelectricity in ways that modern science only formalized millennia later? Did they experiment through trial and error, guided by intuition and observation? Or did they inherit knowledge from an earlier culture whose existence remains buried beneath the sands of deep history? These questions linger as we move forward, drawing us to another enigma: technology hidden not in monuments or metal, but in how ancient people processed materials. Across the ancient world, we find substances whose composition seems out of place. Roman concrete that grows stronger with time, resisting erosion and seawater with an endurance unmatched by most modern equivalents. Egyptian pigments that retain their vibrancy after thousands of years, refusing to fade despite exposure to sunlight, wind, and the passing of ages. Indestructible blue dyes produced through chemical processes whose exact replication challenges modern laboratories. Glass objects with nanoscale structures, alloys of extreme purity crafted before the concept of controlled metallurgy existed. These materials are not accidents. They are the products of technologies based on knowledge, chemical, geological, experimental, that we cannot fully reconstruct. The more ancient artifacts we analyze, the more we realize that many civilizations possessed advanced material sciences without leaving behind the scientific writings that should normally accompany them. The knowledge was there. The documentation was not. And so the mystery deepens. But the ancient world didn't just manipulate materials. Ancient engineers constructed devices capable of calculating astronomical events with extraordinary accuracy. They aligned structures with rising stars, solstices, lunar cycles, and even long-term planetary shifts that required generations of patient observation. They built shadow clocks, celestial markers, water clocks, and early mechanical devices that encode principles of orbital mechanics. Some civilizations embedded their knowledge directly into their architecture. You can walk through their temples and, with the right perspective, see the language of the cosmos laid out in stone. Ratios and proportions echo celestial relationships, distances between stars, movements of planets, cycles of time. It is as though ancient builders saw no difference between constructing a monument and charting the universe. For them, architecture was not merely physical, it was cosmological. This worldview permeates everything they left behind, revealing a profound principle. Ancient technologies were often inseparable from symbolism, mythology, and spirituality. To understand their technology, we must also understand their worldview, a worldview that saw the universe as interconnected, layered with meaning, pattern, and purpose. And so, our journey continues, carrying us into the heart of another mystery, one buried in the precision of ancient craftsmanship. Scattered across deserts, jungles, and mountains are artifacts carved with geometric exactness that challenges the limits of hand tools. Stone vases hollowed through impossibly narrow openings. Granite boxes with interior corners so sharp they resemble modern machining. Spirals cut into stone with consistent error margins so small they test the limits of modern measurement tools. These artifacts defy easy explanation. The marks left on their surfaces suggest the use of tools that rotate, grind, or cut at speeds far beyond what manual labor could achieve. Yet no such tools have survived, or at least, none have been found. Many scholars suggest that these ancient artisans possessed a deep experiential understanding of material properties. How stone responds to pressure, how sound waves travel through it, how vibration can weaken or shape it. Perhaps they used principles we now call mechanical resonance. Perhaps they crafted early prototypes of lathe-like tools, powered by water, wind, or even team-driven mechanisms. Or perhaps they knew techniques we can no longer imagine. The truth remains buried in the silence of the ages. As we move across the ancient world, our path brings us to a question that challenges the foundation of everything we think we know about technology. Why does so much brilliance disappear? History is not just a story of progress, it is a story of loss. Libraries burned. Empires collapsed. Knowledge was hoarded, hidden, or destroyed. Oral traditions broke when families vanished, cities fell, or languages died. Entire scientific traditions disappeared in a single generation. And with them, techniques that might have taken centuries to develop. The technologies we explore today may not represent the heights of ancient achievement, only the few fragments that survived disaster. And so each artifact becomes not just an object, but a survivor. A lone witness to a chapter of human history that has otherwise vanished into the shadows. These survivors remind us that the past was not empty. It was rich, filled with knowledge, experimentation, innovation, and genius. And as we examine the most baffling of these technologies, we begin to understand a startling truth. The ancient world was often far closer to modern thinking than we realize. Their methods were different. Their tools were different. Their worldviews were different. But their intelligence, curious, relentless, creative, was exactly the same as ours. The mysteries they left behind are echoes of that intelligence, preserved across the millennia. As we push forward, deeper still, we approach the heart of the 10 unexplained technologies, those that challenge not just our historical timelines, but the limits of our imagination. Technologies that force us to confront the possibility that the ancient world may have been more advanced, more connected, and more knowledgeable than we ever believed. And now, the next revelation awaits. As we continue our exploration into the shadows of antiquity, a realization begins to take shape, one that challenges the very foundations of our understanding of human capability. The deeper we go, the more apparent it becomes that ancient civilizations were not simply building structures or crafting objects. They were engaging with forces, principles, and ideas that echo into the present with unsettling familiarity. This becomes especially clear when we examine technologies linked not to physical objects, but to vast conceptual systems. Systems that suggest the presence of scientific frameworks thousands of years ahead of their time. One such system lies in the ancient world's understanding of the Earth itself. In multiple civilizations, separated by oceans and millennia, we find evidence of astonishingly accurate geodetic knowledge. Some ancient cultures appear to have measured the circumference of the Earth with remarkable precision. Others encoded the dimensions of the planet into their architecture. Alignments between distant monuments suggest an awareness of longitudinal relationships, long before the concept of longitude was formalized in the modern world. Even more stunning are hints of an ancient ability to map the globe-tracing coastlines, distances, and relationships with an accuracy that defies the limitations of the tools we believe they had. How could early civilizations map a world they had never fully explored? How did they measure at distances that should have been impossible to calculate? And why do so many ancient structures align with one another, sometimes across continents, as though designed within a single global framework? These are not coincidences. They are patterns. Patterns that persist regardless of cultural boundaries, from the sweeping plains of South America to the river valleys of Asia, from the deserts of Africa to the islands of the Pacific. This knowledge appears again and again. Different civilizations, different languages, different traditions, yet somehow a shared understanding of the shape of the world. This is perhaps one of the most profound of ancient mysteries, the possibility that an early global exchange of knowledge occurred long before recorded history suggests, or perhaps something even more extraordinary, a forgotten era of exploration, navigation, or scientific development whose traces were wiped away by time. As we press deeper into this mystery, another begins to emerge from the darkness, one rooted in the ancient world's relationship with the skies. For countless generations, humans have looked upward, captivated by the stars. But ancient astronomers did far more than observe. They calculated. They predicted. They mapped celestial events with long-term accuracy. That implies centuries of continuous tracking. Ancient star charts reveal knowledge of precession, the slow wobble of Earth's axis that takes nearly 26,000 years to complete. Yet mainstream history attributes this discovery to relatively modern astronomy. How, then, do some ancient artifacts suggest awareness of this vast cycle? How did temples align so precisely with star risings that shift over millennia? How did ancient architects plan structures whose astronomical alignments only make sense if they understood long-term celestial drift? And why do so many mythologies reference cycles lasting thousands or tens of thousands of years? These questions force us to consider the possibility that ancient astronomy was not merely observational, but deeply analytical. They understood patterns, cycles, and celestial mechanics in ways that rival early modern science. As our journey continues, the mystery only deepens. For intertwined with this astronomical knowledge is something equally astonishing: an ancient understanding of time. Many early cultures tracked time not by simple seasons, but by highly complex calendar systems that accounted for precession, lunar cycles, solar cycles, planetary movements, and even intercalary corrections. Some ancient calendars are so precise they deviate only seconds from the actual solar year accomplished, without telescopes, clocks, or modern mathematical tools. The sophistication of these systems hints at a technological mindset. The ancients measured time with a precision that shouldn't have been possible, and yet it was. But perhaps the greatest enigma lies not in the precision of these systems, but in how they were used. Across multiple civilizations, we find evidence that ancient people used these advanced calendar systems to predict natural disasters, floods, droughts, eclipses, even seismic events. Some ancient texts reference cycles of catastrophe with strange accuracy. Others describe long-term climatic patterns that align with what modern science has only recently confirmed. Did ancient cultures understand Earth's long rhythms more deeply than we realize? Did they develop predictive models based not on modern calculations, but on centuries of observation? If so, what else might they have discovered? What else might they have foreseen that has been lost to history? These mysteries pull us ever closer to the heart of ancient technological mastery. The possibility that ancient people engaged in scientific traditions far more advanced than conventional timelines allow. Yet the greatest puzzle remains the same. Why is so little of this knowledge preserved? As we travel through the ruins of forgotten civilizations, we see hints of devastating transitions, moments when entire cultures vanished, cities emptied, and scientific traditions died. Natural disasters, societal collapse, invasions, climate change, cultural shifts. Countless forces erased what once existed. The result is a fragmented historical record, a tapestry full of holes. The technological marvels we uncover today may be the few scraps that survived a world in constant flux. Perhaps earlier advancements rivaled or even exceeded what we see. Perhaps entire eras of scientific exploration disappeared before they could be recorded. Every artifact we examine, every building we survey, every fragment of ancient innovation suggests one unsettling truth. What we have found is only a fraction of what once existed. And so we continue, driven by the understanding that the ancient world is not merely a foundation of our past. It is a challenge to our imagination, a reminder that human brilliance is timeless, that knowledge can rise, fall, and rise again, that what we know today may pale in comparison to what was once known and forgotten. As we move forward into the heart of the 10 great enigmas, the next mystery stands waiting, silent, vast, and humbling. And so, we return once more to the deserts of Peru, to a place where the earth itself seems etched with intention. But this time, we step away from the Nazca lines and toward something far more enigmatic, something hidden beneath the shifting sands, unknown to the world until only a few decades ago. Deep in the Palpa region, archaeologists uncovered what appear to be vast geoglyphic runways, flat, precise, engineered strips of desert floor, extending for hundreds of meters like pale scars across the landscape. Unlike the animal figures or geometric shapes, these long, perfectly straight runways look functional, not symbolic. Yet they lead nowhere. They serve nothing. They are carved with intentions we cannot decipher. Some researchers propose they were ritual paths, spaces where priests enacted ceremonies, walking slowly in long processions. Others believe they were astronomical markers, pointing toward solstices or star risings. But even these theories fall short, because around the runways, embedded in the desert floor, lie strange rows of stones, aligned, sorted, positioned with a precision uncannily geometric, lines that intersect, angles that repeat, patterns that defy randomness. And at the center of one such massive runway complex, investigators discovered an anomaly, a square platform of meticulously arranged stones, almost like a foundation, but for a structure that does not seem to have ever existed. No walls, no debris, no traces of dwellings or altars or shelters, just a base, a perfect base. Was something once built here? Something elevated? Something meant to stand above the desert floor, acting as a viewing platform for the patterns? Or was the platform itself a symbol? One of those mysterious elements that tie human ritual to geometry. We do not know. We may never know. But the feeling one gets standing in this empty place is unmistakable. An awareness of presence, of design, of purpose. A purpose forgotten. From the silent deserts of Peru, we travel across the Pacific to a lush island shrouded in myth and ocean mist. A place whose ancient engineering defies logic, whose ruins refuse explanation. Nan Madol, rising from the waters off the island of Pohnpei. Nan Madol is a city built on coral reefs, its foundations resting on the shifting bed of the ocean, its structures rising from artificial islets. And what makes Nan Madol so baffling is not only its construction, but what was used to build it. Basalt columns, huge log-shaped prisms of volcanic rock, some weighing 50 tons or more, stacked like massive stone beams, forming walls higher than the trees that now sway around them. The arrangement is haunting. Perfect right angles, long corridors, towering barricades, and canals that weave through the ruins like ancient roads of water. And yet, there are no quarries on Pohnpei that match the stones. No logical explanation for how such enormous basalt logs were cut, transported, and placed with such precision. No evidence of tools powerful enough to shape the stone with such regularity. No record, oral or written, that tells us how this city came to be. According to island legend, Nan Madol was constructed by two sorcerers twins, who summoned the stones through the air using chance and supernatural force. A myth, of course, or perhaps a symbolic memory of technologies long lost. Archaeologists attempt to ground Nan Madol in realism, suggesting rafts or rollers, brute labor or ingenious engineering. But the coral foundations would have collapsed under the weight of such massive loads. The waters around the city make large-scale construction nearly impossible. Yet somehow, the ancient builders succeeded. Nan Madol stands today as one of the world's most puzzling feats of stone architecture. A city built without precedent, purpose, or explanation. It whispers of a civilization whose capabilities outstripped what we assume they possessed. But the mysteries of ancient technology go deeper still, deep beneath the earth itself. And so we descend into the shadowed tunnels of Cappadocia, in modern-day Turkey. Here, hidden beneath rolling plains of volcanic tuff, lies Derinkuyu, a vast underground city carved by hand, tunneled downward through layers of soft rock. A city large enough to shelter more than 20,000 people. A place engineered with sophistication so advanced that modern architects still marvel at its stability. And the question remains, how did ancient peoples carve an entire metropolis beneath the earth? With what tools? With what knowledge of stress, airflow, and structural integrity? Ventilation tunnels descend dozens of meters, perfectly aligned so that air flows freely through every chamber. Massive stone doors, circular monoliths that can weigh more than a ton, slide into carved grooves to seal passageways. Some tunnels run so deep that they intersect with other underground complexes kilometers away, forming a network of subterranean worlds. Yet, despite its scale, Derinkuyu preserves no inscriptions, no iconography, no builder's marks, no clear indication of who made it or when the first tunnels were carved. Some believe Derinkuyu was built by the Hittites, others by early Christians seeking refuge, others still by civilizations, even more ancient cultures lost to time whose ingenuity remains buried. And this brings us to an even stranger technological mystery, one hidden not in stone or architecture, but in metal. From the dusty plains of Asia, we encounter the legendary Iron Pillar of Delhi, a 7-meter-tall column of almost perfectly pure wrought iron, standing for more than 1,600 years without significant rusting, a feat modern metallurgists cannot fully replicate without advanced alloying techniques. The iron of the pillar is so stable that scientists still debate how the ancient blacksmiths created it. Its resistance to corrosion seems to come from a protective layer formed by an unusual combination of phosphorus and slag, a delicate chemistry that would require incredible precision to produce intentionally. But was it intentional? Or was it the accidental result of a forgotten metallurgical process? Even more strangely, inscriptions on the pillar indicate it originally supported a statue now long lost, suggesting it was part of a greater structure whose remnants have entirely vanished. The iron pillar stands in quiet defiance of time, a technological paradox forged in an era we assume was primitive. And yet, as we travel westward, we encounter something even more perplexing, a technology that suggests the ancients may have harnessed scientific principles thousands of years ahead of their age. The Baghdad Battery. Discovered in Iraq, these strange clay jars contain copper cylinders, iron rods, and traces of acidic residue, suggesting they may have been used as early electrochemical cells. A primitive battery. If the jars were indeed used to generate electricity, the implications are staggering. What were the ancient people powering? Electroplating metals? Religious rituals involving pain or stimulation? Medical therapies? Or something else entirely, something that leaves no trace today? Skeptics argue the jars were simply storage vessels, their inner components misinterpreted. But experimental archaeologists have recreated functional batteries using the jar's exact dimensions, generating a small but consistent electrical current. If it was not electricity, then what was it? And if it was electricity, then what else might they have powered? What else might they have known? As we continue, there is still the matter of the Saqqara bird, the Babylonian planned cities, the underwater structures at Yonaguni, the perfectly drilled granite cores from Egypt, with drill marks so precise they suggest machines far beyond simple copper tools, and the infamous Antikythera mechanism, a bronze computer from ancient Greece whose gearwork is so sophisticated it resembles the complexity of Renaissance clocks, built more than 1,000 years before such mechanisms reappeared in history. But each of these wonders deserves proper exploration, rich context, deep narration, and so we will continue our journey, further, deeper, wider, as our documentary unfolds into the next chapter of the unknown. Before we descend deeper into the world of ancient enigmas, a moment, a pause between mysteries. If you've been captivated by these forgotten technologies, if you feel the weight of the unknown, if you believe history still hides more than it reveals, then join us on this journey. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and activate notifications, because the past still whispers secrets. And here, we listen. Now, let us continue. The story of lost technologies is not a single thread, but a vast tapestry woven across continents, cultures, and millennia. And the deeper we go, the stranger the patterns become. From India's rust-proof iron, we now cross oceans toward a land where mathematics, cosmic alignment, and stone architecture were fused into something almost supernatural. The ancient Andes, high atop the windswept Peruvian plateau, lies an engineering marvel that defies almost every conventional understanding of ancient construction. Sacsayhuaman, massive limestone blocks, some weighing more than 120 tons, interlock with such precision that not even a razor-thin blade can slip between them. No mortar, no binding agent, just perfect cuts. But the true mystery isn't simply the size of the stones. It's the shape of them. Irregular polygons, each with multiple angles, fitted together like giant three-dimensional puzzles. Every stone is unique. Not a single block mirrors another. And yet, they lock so tightly that these towering walls have resisted earthquakes for centuries. Modern engineers still marvel at how these joints absorb seismic energy, a natural shock-absorbing technology thousands of years ahead of its time. How did the Inca, with no iron tools, no wheels, and no beasts of burden capable of hauling such masses, cut, shape, lift, and place these stones with such near miraculous exactitude? Some propose heat-softening techniques. Others believe the stones were hammered gradually over years. But the truth is, the method remains unknown, because scattered across the site, investigators have found drill marks, cylindrical impressions cut into stones so smooth and consistent that they appear machine-made, marks that should not exist, but they do. And Sacsayhuaman is only the beginning. Travel a short distance and you find Kenko, with its labyrinth of underground passages carved into solid rock, or Ollantaytambo, where stones weighing hundreds of tons were transported across rivers and up mountains, or Machu Picchu, whose water system still functions flawlessly to this day. It is as if Andean civilization possessed a toolkit, a knowledge base, that was somehow lost before the Spanish ever arrived. But these mysteries echo loudly around the world. Across the Mediterranean, on the island of Malta, we find another enigma, the hypogeum of Yul Saflieni, a multi-level underground complex carved with such precision that its acoustic properties remain unmatched even today. In the oracle chamber, a single human voice resonates at a frequency that vibrates the entire structure, amplifying sound in a way that seems engineered, designed, tuned. Some researchers believe this room was intentionally crafted to induce trance states. Others think it served as a ritual broadcast chamber. But how could an ancient culture without advanced tools sculpt an underground stone chamber with such acoustic mastery? Even stranger, the hypogeum's lower level shows signs of drilling, smoothing, and polishing that imply techniques far too advanced for the era. Once again, the technology exceeds the timeline. And then, there is Göbekli Tepe, a site so ancient, so impossibly complex, that it forced historians to rewrite the origins of civilization itself. Massive T-shaped stone pillars, carved more than 11,000 years ago, before pottery, before agriculture, before towns. Yet here were monumental temples, astronomical alignments, artwork of astonishing sophistication. The pillars display an understanding of engineering far beyond hunter-gatherer capability. But Göbekli Tepe is older than any settled civilization. So how did a supposedly nomadic people create one of the most advanced ritual complexes on Earth, and then bury it themselves? Was it a message? A preservation act? A ritual closure? Or an attempt to hide something from someone or something? And yet, we have only touched the surface. 10 unexplained technologies? No, there are hundreds. From the vitrified forts of Scotland, to the magnetic anomalies of the Lixus ruins in Morocco, to the impossible precision of the Lahun Pyramid's hidden lock-block mechanism, to the ancient lenses found in Assyria, to the mysterious death rays described in texts from India to Greece. Each one is a doorway, each one leads deeper, and our journey continues. From the Anatolian plains and the Peruvian mountains, our path now bends toward an enigma formed not of stone, not of metal, but of sound. Because some ancient technologies cannot be held, they can only be heard. For centuries, explorers and researchers have been puzzled by accounts of civilizations moving stones with sound. Tales found in Tibetan lore, Polynesian myth, and ancient Greek writings. Legends, dismissed as exaggeration, metaphor, fantasy. But hidden in the mountains of Tibet, early Western travelers documented something astonishing. Monks using long trumpets, cymbals, and chants arranged in a geometric pattern around a stone block. As they performed their ritual, the stone appeared to rise, lifted not by human hands, but by resonance. Modern explanations attempt to reduce the event to optical illusion, exaggeration, or misunderstanding. Perhaps it was a simple pulley system. Perhaps the observer was mistaken. Yet acoustic levitation is real. Modern science acknowledges that sound waves, when perfectly focused, can suspend small objects in mid-air. But the amount of power required is enormous, the precision extreme, and the equipment cutting edge. Could an ancient civilization have understood a principle that modern science only recently verified? Could they have mastered the natural harmonics of stone? Or were these stories symbolic, depicting ritual rather than technology? The mystery is amplified by another puzzle found far from the Himalayas: the stone spheres of Costa Rica. Perfectly round monoliths, carved with uncanny symmetry, scattered across the jungles like the remnants of a forgotten cosmic game. Some weigh only a few kilograms, others weigh dozens of tons. Their purpose remains unknown. No inscriptions, no orientation, no pattern that we can decode. And most baffling of all, the spheres are almost perfectly spherical, a degree of precision that requires advanced tools even today. Why were they made? Who transported them? How were they shaped? The answers are silent, hidden beneath layers of time and moss. But as cryptic as these spheres are, they pale before one of the most perplexing ancient technologies ever discovered, a relic that works in complete silence. Yet its implications echo through history. The Roman dodecahedron, small, hollow, 12-sided bronze objects found across Europe in Roman territories. Each face has a circular hole of different diameter, and small knobs mark each vertex. Over 100 have been discovered, yet no source describes their purpose. Not a single Roman author mentions them. Not a single inscription identifies their use. Theories abound. A surveying tool? A measurement device? A rangefinder for archers? A ceremonial object? An astronomical calculator? But none of these propositions fully explain the design. The holes are too inconsistent for standardized measurement. The wear patterns show they were not used as weapons or tools. The craftsmanship is too refined for mere decoration. And so, like a bronze riddle, the dodecahedron remains unsolved. From Rome's forgotten artifacts, we journey to an even older world, to ancient Egypt, where the most extraordinary mysteries lie not in the pyramids themselves, but in the precision of the objects buried beneath them. In the sands west of the Nile, archaeologists uncovered a set of granite boxes in the Serapeum of Saqqara, gigantic stone sarcophagi, some weighing up to 70 tons, cut, polished, and finished with an accuracy that rivals modern machine tools. Their internal surfaces are near-perfect squares, with corners that form flawless right angles. Not a chisel mark, not a rough edge, not a tool line remains. The cuts are so straight, the angles so sharp, that engineers with laser instruments have measured tolerances of fractions of a millimeter. How did the ancient Egyptians carve granite, a stone harder than steel, without advanced equipment? Copper chisels could not scratch it. Sand abrasion works, but not with this precision, and never at this scale. Yet the sarcophagi exist, silent, immovable witnesses to a process we still do not understand. And nearby, another anomaly rises from the desert floor: the unfinished obelisk of Aswan, If completed, it would have been the largest stone object humans ever attempted to carve. A single 1,200-ton monolith. The cuts around it are strange. Smooth, uniform, and shaped by something that appears to have gouged the stone in long, sweeping motions, like the scraping of a machine tool. But no machines existed at the time, or so we assume. Why start a project of such monumental scale? Why abandon it? And most importantly, what tool created those curved, consistent cut marks? From these ancient quarries, we move into even deeper riddles, to the ruins of Baalbek in Lebanon, where the famous stone of the pregnant woman lies partially quarried. A single block of limestone weighing more than 1,000 tons, so massive that no modern crane on Earth could lift it upright. Yet in the Temple of Jupiter nearby, even larger stones, 1,200-ton giants, were successfully transported and placed more than 6 meters above ground level. How? No ancient text describes the method. No tool has been found capable of such engineering. No explanation satisfies the raw magnitude of the feat. And yet, the stones are there, silent, defiant, impossible. But our journey continues, because the ancient world does not yield its secrets easily. From Baalbek's unparalleled megaliths, we now travel toward the Pacific Ocean, to a place where mystery meets water, stone meets myth, and history blurs into legend. A place known as Easter Island, not for its statues alone, but for something stranger, the technology behind them. We will uncover it, piece by piece, layer by layer, across the vast emptiness of the Pacific, over waters untouched by continents for thousands of kilometers. A remote island rises like a solitary sentinel. Rapa Nui, Easter Island, a place where stone watches the horizon, where ancient eyes carved from volcanic rock stare endlessly toward the world beyond. But while the Moai statues are famous, their true mystery lies not in their faces, but in the technology behind them, because the Moai are not small. Some weigh 40 tons, some exceed 70, and one unfinished giant at the quarry of Rano Raraku would have weighed more than 150 tons. Yet these colossal monoliths were transported miles across uneven ground, lifted upright, and positioned on ceremonial platforms with uncanny precision. How? The traditional explanation suggests rolling logs. But Easter Island had few trees, and deforestation occurred centuries after the major Moai construction period. Moreover, the uneven terrain, with its deep ravines and steep inclines, would make such a method nearly impossible. Modern experiments attempting to replicate the transport using ropes result in unstable swaying and dangerous collapses. But local oral tradition provides a more surprising claim. The statues walked. A metaphor? Perhaps. Or perhaps a coded memory of a technique involving controlled rocking, where the weight and curved base of the statue allowed it to step forward with coordinated rope pulls. Some researchers have demonstrated this possibility, moving a small Moai replica by rhythmically tilting its body from side to side. But this raises other questions. How did the islanders achieve the balance to keep multi-ton statues upright without fractures? How did they control the motion over uphill terrain? And most puzzling of all, why are there no fallen Moai along the paths? If these statues walked, they walked with perfection. But the mystery deepens. At Ahu Tongariki, 15 restored Moai stand aligned toward the interior of the island. But early explorers reported something astonishing. The Moai once had topknots, enormous red stone crowns, called pukau, some weighing more than 12 tons. These were placed atop the statues after they were raised, meaning the ancient Rapa Nui people lifted multi-ton blocks of volcanic stone more than 10 feet into the air and placed them on fragile statue heads, without cranes, pulleys, or metal tools. What lifting technology did they use? Levers? Earthen ramps? Counterweights? Or something entirely forgotten? As the Pacific winds blow across the island's grassy slopes, the Moai remain silent, guardians of a lost engineering tradition. From Easter Island, we cross the ocean again, carried westward toward another enigma, one not carved in stone, but rescued from the seabed. The Antikythera mechanism. Pulled from a Roman shipwreck in 1901, This corroded bronze fragment, barely recognizable, changed everything archaeologists thought they knew about ancient technology. Inside its shattered frame were dozens of gears, some with teeth as fine and precise as a modern clock. Bronze cogs meshed with perfect ratios. Gear trains calculated planetary movements with astonishing accuracy. Hand-engraved indicators tracked lunar phases, solar cycles, eclipses, and more. A mechanical computer, a device centuries ahead of its time. Some researchers have called it the world's first analog calculator. Others call it an impossible machine, because nothing else like it appears for over 1,000 years. After the Antikythera mechanism, the historical record goes silent. No gears, no devices, no similar instruments, until the medieval astronomical clocks of Europe. So who built it? How common were such machines? And why did the technology disappear? Did the ancient Greeks possess a level of mechanical engineering that was not merely advanced, but suppressed, destroyed, or forgotten? As scholars digitally reconstruct the device layer by layer, they discover something even stranger. The accuracy of its gearwork suggests not just craftsmanship, but a lineage of technology, meaning this was not the first. It was merely the survivor, a survivor of a lost tradition. But the sea gives us more puzzles. South of Yonaguni, off the coast of Japan, lies a submerged stone formation that ignited fierce debate. The Yonaguni Monument. Massive terraces, right-angled steps, straight-sided walls, platforms, sharp geometric lines. Is it natural? Is it man-made? Or a natural formation later modified by human hands? If it is artificial, then it may predate known Japanese civilization by thousands of years, suggesting an advanced maritime culture once thrived in the region. Building monumental architecture now swallowed by the sea. Divers exploring the structure report U-shaped channels that look carved, rectangular rooms, and a staircase whose angles are almost too perfect to dismiss as erosion. If humanity built Yonaguni, then history's timeline shifts dramatically. But even that pales beside one of the most perplexing ancient technologies ever unearthed, a discovery made not in stone, but in bone. The Ica stones of Peru. Smooth andesite stones, engraved with scenes that defy explanation. Some depict long-extinct animals. Others show sophisticated surgeries. Others portray celestial observations. And some, a minority but still undeniable, show images of humans interacting with creatures that resemble dinosaurs. Many consider them hoaxes, carved in modern times. But the mystery persists, because certain stones were reportedly discovered decades before the first publicized fakes. And because some engravings show ancient patination inconsistent with recent carving. If all are fake, the hoax is vast. If some are real, then history contains chapters we have not yet opened. But the strangest mysteries are not fossils, machines, monoliths, or monuments. They are tools made for purposes we still cannot comprehend. And one such tool, discovered in the Andes, remains among the most baffling. The quipu. Knotted strings used by the Inca not merely for counting, but possibly for recording language. Recent analysis suggests the knots encode syntax, hierarchy, and narrative, meaning the Inca may have had a writing system hidden in chords, in loops, in tension and spacing. A three-dimensional script, a language of fiber and pattern. If true, the quipu is not only a tool, it is a technological achievement in cognition, abstraction, and communication unlike anything else on Earth. But this is only the threshold. We are moving toward deeper questions, toward technologies so advanced, so unusual, so shockingly complex, that they challenge the very foundations of what we believe about the ancient world. If you are still with us, if you can feel the pull of the unknown, then the next steps will take us to places where mystery becomes magnitude. From the woven knots of the Andes, our journey now turns toward technologies that do not merely puzzle historians. They shake the foundations of archaeology, engineering, and even physics. Because some ancient feats were not just advanced, they were impossible. At least, impossible according to everything we understand today. And nowhere is that contradiction more pronounced than in the heart of the Middle East, at the site of Baalbek's Trilithon. We've spoken of it briefly. The colossal limestone blocks, weighing more than 1,000 tons each. But beneath the platform, researchers uncovered something even stranger: underground chambers whose architectural style does not match the Roman structures above them. Evidence that the foundation may predate Roman construction by centuries, or even millennia. The Romans were master engineers of that, there is no doubt. But their own texts do not mention moving stones of this size. No Roman quarry shows tooling for such massive blocks, and no surviving Roman crane could have lifted even half the weight. Yet the trilithon stones are precisely placed, not shifted, not cracked, not dragged into position with brute force. Set, as if lowered from above, and below them, the older foundation stones, smaller, but still vast, align with such mathematical exactitude that they form a staircase of decreasing weight, distributing load with near-modern engineering principles. Who built the base? How old is it? What knowledge did they possess? These questions echo through time, but the stones offer no answers. From the deserts of Lebanon, we move into the deep mysteries of precision drilling in antiquity. In Egypt, at the ruins near Giza, archaeologists uncovered granite drill cores. Cylindrical remains left when hollow drills bored into hard stone. But here is the strange part. The spiral grooves on these cores descend with a pitch so steep that it suggests the drill bit penetrated the granite 20 times faster than modern diamond-tip drills. Copper, sand, manpower. None of these can replicate the speed indicated by the grooves. Some propose counterweighted drills. Others suggest stone tubes spun by ropes. But none of these mechanisms can physically match the feed rate implied by the evidence. We are left with a paradox. Either the ancient Egyptians invented an unknown drilling technology, or the physics of the grooves are misunderstood. Yet engineers and machinists, not archaeologists, are the ones most baffled, because they know what such marks mean. They recognize the signature of rotational cutting under extreme force. How did an ancient civilization achieve something modern devices struggle to do? From granite drilling, we shift to another unfathomable example of ancient precision: the Hoysala temples of India, carved from stone so hard it challenges steel. The pillars produce musical tones when struck. Each column is tuned to a specific pitch. Together, they create a stone orchestra. But tuning stone requires removing material with hairline accuracy. A fraction too much, and the tone is ruined. A fraction too little, and it will not resonate. How did they measure sonic frequency? How did they carve so precisely? What tools allowed them to shape stone with such delicacy? No manuscripts describe the method. No tools have survived. It is as if an entire craft, a discipline of acoustic engineering, vanished overnight. From India's resonant temples, we move northward to a mystery hidden in snow: the pyramids of China, particularly those near Xi'an. While China keeps many of these mounds restricted, aerial photographs reveal immense pyramidal structures stretching across Shaanxi province, some nearly as large as the Great Pyramid of Giza, some aligned to celestial positions with precision matching and sometimes surpassing Egyptian pyramids. Yet they are older than most major Chinese dynasties. Who built them? Why were they covered with soil? Why are excavations limited? And what lies inside tools, machinery, knowledge? We do not know. From the snow-covered fields of China, we sail toward the shores of Greece, to the island of Crete, where the Minoan civilization crafted something astonishing nearly 4,000 years ago: a plumbing system, not merely pipes and drains, but a complex, multi-level infrastructure with flushing toilets, hot and cold running water, and pressure-managed aqueducts. Modern cities did not reach this level of hydraulic engineering until the 19th century, yet the Minoans achieved it in the Bronze Age. Where did they learn this? Why did the technology vanish after their collapse? And why does the Palace of Knossos seem designed with principles closer to modern mechanical engineering than to other ancient sites? But even the brilliance of the Minoans does not prepare us for the next anomaly: a structure that should not exist at all: the Sacsayhuaman lightning rod stones in Peru. Scattered among the megaliths are stones fused together as if by extreme heat. Heat so intense it melted their surfaces into glassy, vitrified layers. But no furnace large enough to melt these stones existed in ancient Peru. No evidence of fire hot enough has been found, and yet the stones stand, smooth. Some suggest lightning strikes, but lightning would not melt stones in uniform patches. Others suggest volcanic activity, but there is no evidence of such eruptions at the site. Could the ancient builders have used a technology capable of generating immense heat precisely and intentionally? Or are we witnessing something nature did, but in ways we still cannot explain? The mysteries multiply. From vitrified stone to Roman concrete, a material so durable it has resisted erosion for 2,000 years. Long after modern concrete crumbles, Roman concrete grows stronger over time. Modern concrete weakens. Roman concrete heals its own cracks. Modern concrete fractures. The secret lies in volcanic ash from Pozzuoli, but the exact process, the precise chemistry, the intentional use of crystalline reactions remains partly lost. Some ancient recipes have been replicated, but the full durability of Rome's maritime concrete in harbors constantly battered by seawater remains unmatched. Why did the Romans guard this knowledge so closely? How did they discover it? And why, after the empire fell, was the technology never revived? But even this is not the pinnacle, because as we move through these impossibilities, we approach a discovery that redefines ancient potential. Not a structure, not a tool, but a mechanism of life. In the Indus Valley region, archaeologists discovered artifacts that seem to show understanding of germ theory, thousands of years before its official discovery. Surgical instruments, sterilized rooms, gridded cities with public sanitation far ahead of their time. Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro were not merely settlements. They were engineered environments. Their draining systems, more advanced than many 18th century European cities. How did the Indus people know that stagnant water spread disease? How did they plan urban layouts with such modern logic? Why did their civilization vanish so completely, leaving no deciphered records? These are not small questions. They form cracks in the narrative of human progress, cracks that widen as we continue our descent, because the next technologies are the ones that challenge the very boundary between ancient knowledge and modern science. Far beyond the roaring surf and windswept cliffs of Rapa Nui, another mystery rises, one that defies not just engineering logic, but the very continuity of human history itself. For scattered across the vastness of the Pacific, throughout islands separated by thousands of miles, are legends that speak of a lost homeland, a place described with reverence, sorrow, and awe, a place said to have been swallowed by the sea. We know it today as Kumari Kandam, Lemuria, Hawaii, or Avaiki names, carried by Polynesian navigators and Tamil storytellers across centuries. But beneath the myths lies something more tangible, evidence of advanced seafaring, ancient astronomy, and an oceanic network that should not have existed according to traditional timelines. The Polynesians navigated by stars, currents, winds, and wildlife patterns with a mastery unmatched until the modern age. But how did they begin? Who taught the first navigators to read the sky as though it were a carved map? And more intriguingly, why do similar star traditions appear in ancient India, Southeast Asia, and even parts of Africa? Was there once a forgotten civilization bridging continents? A culture whose knowledge dissolved into legend after a cataclysmic event? Or is this convergence of traditions simply the natural evolution of seafaring peoples across time? These questions draw us deeper into the Pacific, toward another enigma resting beneath the waves. The underwater ruins of Yonaguni, discovered off the coast of Japan in 1986. Yonaguni is a labyrinth of steps, terraces, platforms, and geometric angles, structures that look impossibly deliberate. The formations rise like a submerged fortress, with walls so straight, corners so sharp, and surfaces so flat that divers still debate whether they were carved or formed by nature. Some researchers insist it is a lost city, the remnants of a culture wiped away during the last ice age. Others maintain it is a natural formation modified by erosion and time. But even the most conservative interpretations cannot explain the perfect right angles, the consistent step heights, or the long, sweeping corridors aligned with cardinal directions. If Yonaguni is indeed a lost civilization, its existence would rewrite the technological timeline of East Asia. If it is natural, then nature has an uncanny ability to mimic human ambition. From these submerged monoliths we rise back onto land. This time, to the deserts of India, where on the plains of Rajasthan lies one of the most perplexing technological artifacts ever recorded in ancient literature, the Shakuna Vimana. In texts like the Vaimanika Shastra, flying machines are described with extraordinary detail. Metals that respond to heat like living skin, propulsion methods involving mercury and vibration, instruments for navigation, even technical schematics. Most mainstream scholars believe these descriptions were written far later than claimed products of imagination, not engineering. Yet what troubles historians is not the writings themselves, but their consistency with ancient myths found across cultures. Flying discs, sky chariots, and battles waged above the clouds. Were these stories symbolic, dreams of the heavens, or memories distorted by time of a technology long lost? And if these machines were mere legend, how do we explain the unexplained vitrified forts of Scotland, Turkey, and the Middle East? Fortresses whose stone walls were fused by heat so intense that they turned to glass? No natural wildfire could achieve such temperatures. No known weapon from the ancient world could produce such destruction. It is a puzzle with no comfortable answer, but our journey is not complete, because humanity has left more clues, more contradictions, and more silent reminders that history is not a straight line, but a tapestry of forgotten chapters. For now, we travel to the cradle of civilization, Mesopotamia, where one of the strangest artifacts ever unearthed challenges our understanding of ancient technology. The Baghdad Battery, a clay pot filled with vinegar or wine, enclosing an iron rod surrounded by a copper cylinder. For decades, researchers debated whether it was truly a battery, a device capable of producing electricity long before the concept existed. Experiments show that yes, it works. It produces a small electric charge, enough to electroplate metals, enough to shock, enough to power simple chemical reactions. But if this was a battery, where are the devices it powered? Where are the tools, the lamps, the circuits? Why create electricity in a world without machines that need it? Unless the battery was only one piece of a lost technological puzzle, and as if the ancient world was not enigmatic enough, one final mystery waits in the shadows of the Caucasus Mountains, a mystery that breaks all expectations, all assumptions, and all conventional timelines. In the Ural region, tiny metal spirals no larger than a grain of rice were found buried deep in river sediments. At first glance, they appear simple, but under a microscope, their precision is breathtaking. The spirals are engineered with geometric accuracy found only in modern microfabrication, yet they are tens of thousands of years old. Some argue they are natural formations. Others insist they are modern contamination. But a growing minority believes they may represent an ancient technology so advanced, so unexpected, that we have no framework with which to interpret it. And so we stand, once again, at the boundary between what we know and what we merely believe we know. The ancient world was not simple. It was not primitive. It was not merely a stepping stone to modernity. It was a vast, complex, interconnected mosaic of experimenters, explorers, engineers, astronomers, and dreamers, many of whom left behind technologies we still cannot fully explain. And though we study their tools with lasers, computers, simulations, and laboratories, the truth remains elusive. History is deeper than memory, older than record, and more mysterious than we dare to admit. But our journey does not end in the rivers of the Urals. Because the ancient world still holds secrets so profound, so unsettling, that even mentioning them feels like crossing a threshold, a place where archaeology, myth, and possibility blur into one. From the microspirals buried in Siberian sediments, our path leads us to a place where technology and legend intertwine with eerie precision, to the high plateaus of Bolivia, to the ruins of Pumapunku, a site unlike any other on Earth. Massive stone blocks lie scattered as though struck by a force beyond comprehension. Blocks carved from diorite, one of the hardest stones known, shaped with angles so perfect and cuts so clean that modern engineers compare them to machine-milled components. These blocks have interlocking grooves, precision-drilled holes, and edges so sharp they could slice the palm of a hand. When measured with lasers, they show tolerances that challenge even modern fabrication. But the people of this region had no metal tools capable of cutting diorite, no written language, no pulleys, no wheels, no complex machinery. And yet, the stones exist, cut, shaped, transported, placed. How? Did the builders inherit a forgotten technology? Was there once a culture far older than Tiwanaku that mastered stone with methods lost to time? Or is this simply evidence of a skill we underestimate because we cannot replicate it? The truth remains encased in the silence of shattered monoliths. From Bolivia, our journey arcs northward into Central America, into the heart of the Maya civilization, where mathematical knowledge and astronomical mastery flourished like nowhere else in the ancient world. The Maya tracked Venus with accuracy unmatched until the invention of the telescope. They predicted solar eclipses with algorithms we are only now beginning to fully understand. They built observatories with perfect alignments, designed calendars spanning thousands of years, and engraved cycles of time that reach beyond the lifespan of entire civilizations. But their most mysterious technology is not their mathematics. It is their writing system. Over 800 glyphs, each with layered meaning, phonetics, and symbolism. It is not simply a script. It is a multi-dimensional language. Some glyphs represent objects. Some represent sound. Some represent entire concepts and complex ideas in a single symbol. And yet, even today, the Maya script is not fully deciphered. Its depths, its subtleties, its true extent remain partially hidden. What knowledge lies encoded in those symbols? What secrets did the Maya preserve? What warnings? What discoveries? What histories remain locked behind a language that refuses to fully reveal itself? From the jungles of the Maya, we cross the Atlantic, back to the Mediterranean, where the greatest library ever built once stood, the Library of Alexandria. Though not a technology in the mechanical sense, it was a technological marvel of human intellect, a repository of knowledge, invention, philosophy, medicine, astronomy, and engineering far more advanced than commonly believed. Researchers recorded automatic doors powered by steam, hydraulic machines that played music, mechanical birds that flapped their wings, a primitive form of a steam engine, even early concepts resembling robots. All of these ideas existed more than 2,000 years ago, but the library burned, and with it, entire chapters of human innovation vanished. Ideas that could have advanced civilization by centuries disappeared into ash. Prototypes, blueprints, inventions, the intellectual technology of the ancient world lost. When we consider what the ancients achieved even without that lost knowledge, we can only imagine what they might have created. And so our journey brings us at last to the boundary between the known and the unknowable, to sites, objects, and technologies that modern science cannot fully interpret, to ideas that challenge our assumptions about the past, to evidence that suggests civilizations may not rise and fall in a straight line, but in cycles, rising, advancing, vanishing, leaving only fragments behind. Fragments we uncover, puzzled. Centuries later, pieces of a puzzle that once formed a whole picture, a picture we may never fully see. But these mysteries remind us of something profound. Humanity has always reached for knowledge, always experimented, always built, imagined. The ancient world was not a primitive beginning. It was a cradle of ingenuity, innovation, and brilliance. A brilliance that outlives its makers, but not its mysteries. Our story continues into the closing chapter, where we gather the threads of these enigmas, confront the unanswered questions, and explore what these ancient technologies mean for our understanding of human history. From the sands of Egypt to the high plateaus of Bolivia, from the coral ruins of Micronesia to the drowned terraces of Japan, from forgotten scripts to impossible monoliths, we have followed a trail of anomalies, a trail of technologies that should not exist, yet do. And now, as we move into the final chapters of this journey, we confront a truth that grows clearer with every mystery unearthed. History is not missing pieces. History is missing entire chapters. Our story resumes in the cradle of the Near East, where whispers of innovation lie buried beneath dust and myth. Not far from the Tigris River, clay tablets from ancient Sumer describe the world's first cities, first laws, first schools, and something far stranger, machines. Not machines of metal or steam, but mechanical illusions, animated devices, and tools whose mechanism remains unclear. One tablet describes a self-moving chariot. Another mentions a device that shines without flame. Others reference mechanisms for measuring, cutting, and navigating, tools that resemble prototypes of devices we reinvented millennia later. Were these descriptions symbolic, exaggerations, or fragments of a technological tradition that vanished long before Greece and Rome? We cannot know, but the parallels are too numerous to ignore. And so we move west, to the shores of Greece, where philosophy and engineering once merged into wonders. Among the ruins of Antikythera, divers recovered a corroded bronze artifact, a device that would rewrite everything we believed about ancient science. The Antikythera mechanism, a machine with gear ratios so complex, tolerances so precise, and functions so advanced that it rivaled the astronomical calculators of the 18th century. This was a computer, built in the ancient world, but it was not a prototype. It was too refined. Meaning, an entire technological tradition must have existed before it, a tradition now utterly lost. Where are the earlier models? Where are the workshops? Where are the manuals? The diagrams? The apprenticeships? Gone, erased by wars, disasters, and time. Yet, the mechanism survived by accident, a time capsule from a forgotten era of ingenuity. And as we study it, we realize something profound. The ancient world was not merely experimenting with technology, it was mastering it. But not all ancient technologies can be held or measured. Some were built into the very bones of the earth. Which brings us to acoustic temples. Across Malta, India, Peru, and Egypt exist chambers whose architecture manipulates sound in ways modern engineers struggle to replicate. At the Hal Saflieni Hypogeum in Malta, a single resonant chamber enhances the human voice until it vibrates through the walls, producing frequencies scientifically shown to alter consciousness. In India, the Vithala temple resonates to specific musical notes, every column tuned like an instrument. In Saqqara, underground corridors amplify sound in perfect harmonics. These structures were not accidents. They were engineered. But engineered for what purpose? Ritual? Healing? Communication? A form of sound-based energy? We do not know, and perhaps we never will. But the precision remains. The intention remains. The mystery remains. From the acoustic marvels of antiquity, we turn now to the deepest and most haunting enigma of all, one so vast that it defies classification as technology. Yet every measurement, every excavation, every discovery points towards something engineered, deliberate, and purposeful. The global megalithic network, stone circles in Europe, pyramids in Egypt, Sudan, China, and Mesoamerica, aligned monoliths in the Middle East, Africa, and Asia, ancient roads beneath the Amazon, even forgotten causeways in Antarctica's thawing ice. Many of these structures share alignments with solstices, equinoxes, lunar cycles, and star systems. Alignments calculated with mathematical precision. How did cultures separated by oceans and continents produce similar designs, orientations, and measurements? How did they build with such accuracy without a unified method of communication? Coincidence? Parallel evolution? Or the remnants of a knowledge system older than recorded history? A knowledge system passed down, fragmented, and eventually lost. Which brings us to the heart of the documentary, to the question that has followed us since the first mystery. What does all of this mean? The truth is not simple, nor is it comfortable, but it is unavoidable. Our ancestors were not primitive. They were not fumbling in the dark. They were not merely waiting for the Renaissance, the Industrial Revolution, or the digital age. They were innovators, builders, astronomers, mathematicians, navigators, engineers, dreamers who solved problems with tools and knowledge we still struggle to understand. When we strip away our assumptions, when we challenge our timelines, when we look at the evidence without bias, a new picture emerges. A picture of ancient humanity, not as a primitive beginning, but as a lost peak, a peak reached through thousands of years of experimentation, a peak brought down by catastrophe, climate shifts, volcanic eruptions, wars, tsunamis, and the slow erosion of time. Yet their achievements endure, not in textbooks, not in blueprints, but in stone, in silence, in mysteries that challenge our certainty. And that brings us to the end of this journey, but not the end of the story. Because the past is not dead, the past is not gone. The past is a mirror, reflecting what humanity once was, and what humanity might become again. If this exploration moved you, if it awakened your curiosity, if it made you question what you thought you knew, then join us on the next documentary. Like, share, comment, and subscribe, so together we can continue uncovering the forgotten, the unexplained, the impossible, and the extraordinary. This is Ages Past, and this was 10 Ancient Technologies